Ladies and gentlemen, greetings and hello and hi. I have a few thoughts about caffeine as it relates to the human spirit. This is just conjecture. I've got no clue about this one. I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's a theory I'm kicking around a little bit. It kind of makes sense to me, and I'm kind of trying to employ it with some varying degrees of success. I've got no clue, but I want to run it by you guys because I know a lot of us have ADHD, a lot of us consume a lot of caffeine for it, a lot of us have a lot of bummer energy about having ADHD, but I have thoughts about it as it relates to the human spirit and having access to it. Let me talk about it, and then you guys let me know if it resonates or not, because I'm still working on it. Let's workshop it together. Alright, so here's what's going on. With ADHD, it is famously hard to focus. We know this. You try and do something, it sucks, you have to go and do something else. Why can't I get this done? This paper, this the video. I'm doing tons of video work right now. It's hard to focus on any given video. It's hard to focus. I don't have to talk more about that. We understand when you have ADHD, it's hard to do only one thing, and it feels like we do live in a world, where it's prudent to be able to do one thing. It feels like we don't fit in because in many ways we don't. That feels like a handicap because we can't focus. And one of the favorite comments I've ever received is one of my viewers likes the things that I make because what I tend to do is try to put emotions through the logic box and see what comes out the other side. And that's just a lot of things like coping mechanisms. Some of the mental gymnastics which help me when I'm in a challenged state, and the way that I've learned to navigate a lot of my internal world. I think that stuff's really interesting, finding ways to manipulate and handle emotions. That's just interesting stuff to me, and it's stuff I had to learn. And an emotion is a highly tenuous, fluid kind of a situation, right? Like you can't focus on pain or even happiness and feel it any better. And I think, like I mentioned in one of my recent videos, you can't force an emotion either. It doesn't work like that. You can't think about it. You can't focus on it. Otherwise, it just kind of hurts a little bit, or it just doesn't work. Like, I don't know, man. But focusing on an emotion doesn't work. You can't really manipulate it logically. You can try and combat it. You know, you can try and throw them together a little bit, I guess. But they're not logical things. We know this. And I'm just going to really quickly throw it together, state my premise, and then babble about it for a little bit, because I don't know where the thought experiment goes. We'll get there together, which is some of my favorite videos. So here's the premise. We'll just dial it in. If you focus really hard on what you're feeling, you can't see why you're feeling the way you are, only that you are feeling the way that you are. You can't logic your way out of an emotion. It's different than that. My theory is that emotions are the sort of thing you can only get a grasp on if you're a little removed from them. If you step back and look at a picture that's kind of fuzzy, like the ones that have all of the little dots, if you look up close, it's like this is dots. But when you step back, you see a picture of it. I feel like emotions are similar. The more you focus on it, the harder it is to see. And to use exactly clear language, if ADHD makes it hard to focus, could that not also, in theory, make it easier to notice things which are only visible without focus? You focus on the big picture, you don't see the little picture. You focus on the little picture, you don't see the big picture. But I contend if you don't focus, you can kind of see the shape of it all. I don't know, that's just my theory on it, but I think there's something to it. And I'm going to go ahead and use an example of not focusing on an emotion, but feeling it. And we're going to liken that to ADHD and not knowing how to handle an emotion, because I feel like the nature of our mind might be an advantage in some ways. Because I never understood the spiral, the horrible, I hate it, where something small will happen, and that reminds me of other things of similar ilk which have happened, down to Goblin Town, and then suddenly your mother is once again refusing to make food for you because you should be able to take care of yourself, and it's like you're a kid. I don't know, that did not happen. I had a very loving family. I was blessed, and that's just like an example. But like if your partner does something and you're like 40 years old, That has nothing to do with what mom did when you were 5, but your brain will put those things together, and that's the massive spiral, how one negative thing turns into every negative thing. That's frustrating to experience, and if you're focused too hard on how you're feeling, you end up reliving all of the experiences which were triggered by an initially small inciting event. The common thread behind all of those memories which flood in together and make a small problem into a massive problem are the emotional attachments you have to each of those memories. If you do something like see your life flash before your eyes in like a near-death circumstance or something, then you could see, say, the anger of rage flash before your eyes as you get that whole snapshot, right, of all of these pivotal moments of rage in your life, which makes a small rage into a big rage. Because you're seeing the collage, here's the highlights of a really strong emotion. If you were able to zoom out your perspective, not close in focus on any of these individual moments of rage, I feel like you would be able to see the shape of the moments as they connect, and I feel like you would be able to see the picture of rage. The challenging thing when this occurs, and the process I just described is a possible process. I execute this frequently. I don't need to try and force that more language on you like that. This happens, accept it or don't, but this is a thing which does or can occur. You can cultivate this, etc. This is possible. Now we move on. I do this a lot. But the challenge or danger of scoping out and allowing yourself to view the picture of rage opposed to focusing on individual moments of it is that you end up feeling a lot of rage, kind of concentrated amounts of it, because that's just how emotions work, right? They feel a certain way. They don't always feel very friendly, and they don't always come up in moments that are appropriate. Rage, whatever, like all sorts of, we know emotions and we know how intrusive they can be, and they can feel like a massive detriment. And when you scope out to feel the picture of rage or to see it or whatever, yeah, that's a lot. That can feel like a lot. My only point with this, and then we'll link it back to, like, I did bring up the caffeine thing and the focus thing. We'll get back to ADHD specifically. We are almost back on target to the video. I just have one more thing to bring up. Any amount of fear of the unknown or whatever, not knowing what's going on, makes anything more frightening and hard to handle, puts you into emergency mode, you shut down, you're scrolling for 5 hours because it's too much to handle. Not knowing what's going on causes a ton of pain. More so than just the emotion on itself. Not understanding it exacerbates how bad it feels. And when you're able to scope out and see the picture of the emotion, which is too much to really feel all at one time until you get better at it, that's when you stop being afraid of it and you can understand the shape of rage when it arrives. For the static mind like we have, I kind of feel like we're always going to feel it a lot because the mind is always going to jump around and make all those connections to other similarly emotionally charged moments. I kind of feel like we just feel emotions really big. Now we start to bring it back into the caffeine territory, and what I think might be actionable concerning this system, which once again is conjecture inside of my mind. I made all of this up. It just makes sense to me. Up first is a very quick interjection about handling emotions, trying to distract yourself so you don't feel them because they're too strong. That's a massive trap. The brain needs to process things. If you're distracting yourself so you don't feel the thing, which hurts a lot, admittedly, sometimes you have to like shelter yourself from it or whatever. But when you doom scroll or play games or drink or whatever it is to feel better in the moment because you feel too strongly, you need to get away from the emotions. The active energy that you're using, the brain is using to do the thing that's distracting you from the thing. The brain doesn't have as much energy to handle the emotion it has to process. The thing you're doing to distract yourself from the pain you're feeling is keeping you in pain. There's no solution except to feel the pain. So only feel as much as you can, but you have to be brave and feel that so then you can stop feeling that. The brain has to do its thing. You have to give the brain energy to do the thing. You have to allow yourself to do nothing so your brain can focus on processing the emotional thing. And by the way, that's how meditation works. Anyway, let's talk about caffeine for a little bit. It absolutely does help me, at least, feel like I fit in a little better with the world that we live in, because we do live in a space where you have to focus on physical details. By the same token, we live in a human body which has emotional processing center. You have to be able to feel those emotions, which I do contend you can only feel when you don't focus on them. You need to be kind of zoomed out. And I need to spend some time now to talk about my experience experimenting with caffeine, when I have it, when I don't. And I've been medicated for ADHD in the past. I just didn't love how it made me feel because I did feel cut off from my emotions, which sometimes you might want that, but I'm just an emotional creature. I feel like it's part of what makes me human, and I liked being able to be more in touch with that, even though it does, of course, come with the challenge of sometimes having a harder time focusing. But what does equate to more emotional accessibility, in my eyes, works out really great for the art that I make. This is, of course, to the extent that you can consider my videos to be art. That's going to be up for other people to decide. But I like being able to put my heart into the things that I do. If I don't have heart, I don't care. I cannot care. I cannot make myself care. I cannot drink coffee to make myself do an essay that I don't care about. If I don't care, I'm out. I need to be able to care about what I'm doing. I need to be able to put my heart into it. And if I'm focused on the mechanics of editing a video or filming a video, I can't also focus on my heart. I would rather have my heart available and the video to flow. And this is to say, I stopped drinking coffee before I filmed these things because I want to be able to feel more about what's important to say, opposed to mechanically thinking, here's how a video about caffeine and video, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is not a mechanical endeavor. I am not a mechanical creature. And it feels wonderful having a space to be able to celebrate that element of human nature, opposed to other times in life where I only bemoaned my emotional self because I felt like it was holding me back. And caffeine at this point, I think we have to go ahead and call either bringing about focus or call it the representation of desiring focus. And this might be a bit of a stretch, but I think we could also maybe consider the desire of focus to be the desire for lack of emotion, because it's the emotion that makes it hard to focus. I have to take this now to a place that's a little bit strange. Bear with me, because at least this process helps me a lot and is the way I've been able to learn how to do what I do and learn to be really satisfied. This process is what my hack is, I suppose. I would have a hard time focusing because my internal nature of having ADHD and a really excitable mind is because of a lot of emotions flowing about. I'm too excited, or I'm too happy energy. My brain wants more stimulation. I'm too angry about the past, and I can't focus on an essay. I have too much anger. That makes it hard to focus. The emotions are in the way. Having an outlet for those emotions, and I'll get there, but that kind of gets the emotions out of my head, so then there's not distractions, so then I can focus more on the things I need to handle in the day-to-day. And outlet for emotion means something different than I think many people consider it to be. It is not playing Call of Duty, or for me, Dead by Daylight, in a state of rage to get out your anger on the survivors who keep faulting windows and little rascals stop. Like, I would get mad, and for a time I would, in moments of anger, play a game to cool down and try and like get my aggression out, right? Like, that's the wrong thing. Because in that moment I am using rage to inform my gameplay. Call of Duty, Rocket League is not helping me. In many ways, I'm focused more on it. And I don't think that you can feel an emotion and be focused. Rather, I don't think you can process an emotion and be focused. My emotional outlet, then, is actually any playground or field where you can allow your emotions to bounce around. I even have ideas for what the mechanic of this looks like. Bear with me though, because I'm about to suggest something that feels bad or dangerous, could be taken the wrong way. Bear with me, please. I'm going to say it the bad way first, because it feels bad. It is bad. This is the bad way to take it. I'm going to say the bad thing first. Allowing your emotions to consume you and take hold of your physical body so your actions are no longer your own is, my opinion, the chief way to process emotion. Oops. No. No. Bad. Bad, bad, bad. No, 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 no. Bad. Don't take that out. That's bad. No, don't do that. It's so bad. No, I said that. No, stop. Yeah, give me a second, please. It's so bad. It's wrong. That's not even the right thing I meant to say. Alright, it is what I meant to say. But there's a good way to do it and a bad way to do it. As we live in a physical world, the thing I just said, what comes to mind is allow yourself to destroy cars and go out and be really promiscuous and spend money on credit cards that don't mean anything. Quit your job and play video games because you're too angry to do anything. Take out your aggression on other people. Be really sad and don't do anything or cause self-harm. Those are all ways that emotions can physically control your body, which I just barely said is how I think you can process emotions really well. So that's really bad, and that's what it sounds like when I just said the thing that I said. So, oops, but there's the good way to do this, let me tell you. It's this. It's this. Being a VTubing cat, who knew? No, not quite that exactly. But remember, to the extent that we consider my videos to be art, there you go. It's less so about becoming a painter or learning how to make something, because the creativity, again, that's like an emotional outlet, but also kind of a bit. When you paint or when you type or when you film a video, if you do it the right way, which is without trying very hard, without too much focus, you have to move your body to make a video like this. You have to put words together. You have to allow these things to flow, and for me at least, allow the emotion I'm feeling to inform everything my body is doing when it comes to the creation of this exact thing. That opens up all of my brain to feel and process the emotion I've just given it physical rules to operate within. Otherwise, when I feel an emotion, if I'm spending energy trying to manage my physical actions, that's a part of the brain which is not able to process the emotion. If I can give my brain over to processing as much as it can, I'm done with it faster. And once I'm done with it, it's no longer active and distracting me when I'm trying to focus on real-world endeavors. The thing with art is if you allow your emotions to consume your actions where art is concerned, that is the safest playground that there is. For me, it helps being able to share the thing that I make, but it took an extremely long time to be comfortable with that. Are you kidding me? This video is strange. I'm a little odd. It took a long time to get comfortable with that. That part does help, but it's optional. Because the thing that I make, when I'm feeling all of my rage, in some ways, contains my rage. I usually end up burning or throwing away my journals because that's also making something emotionally, which usually contains things that I was feeling and couldn't enjoy. They were containing my emotions. And so then I would burn them because it was too strong to handle. But I feel like the act of emotionally making something, putting your emotions in any space that is expendable, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I could delete this video. I could delete any of my videos. I usually don't, but there's so many I don't post. There's so many emotions I try and share. But there's a lot that I create that can't go anywhere. It's too hard for me to I don't know, man. I don't know. But anything that I make here, anything creative I do, is super duper expendable. I mean, it doesn't matter. This is just like a silly rinky-dink video. Whatever. But if I feel like my body was able to use a form of art to operate entirely freely in my realm of emotional expression, and that piece of art comes to contain that emotion because I used all of it, my brain processed it, I had nothing to do with it, I allowed my emotional mind to take over and make this. At that point, if you needed to, you could burn it or delete it or whatever. You got out all of your emotion in an expendable place. It's no longer distracting you. You don't have to look at it anymore because you felt it. You allowed all of yourself to express it in an absolutely safe playground, and you were able to discard it, to destroy it. Like, it became a thing. Like, you don't have to keep it. In order to pull this off, you can't focus. Feeling pain and trying to write something, trying to figure out the best way to express your pain, for me, doesn't work. Because that's body first. I'm going to use my body to express an emotion. Rather, in a safe playground of any creative endeavor, it could be woodwork. It doesn't matter. Do something. Or like restore a car. Anything. It doesn't matter. Do something. But in a strictly contained environment, which has no inherent meaning, which makes it something you can throw away because it has no meaning, when you can experience the emotion fully and allow it to control your body in that constrained environment, I think that's the healthiest way, the most expedient way to get whatever emotions are in your mind out so you can then proceed on the rest of your life. Now, here's the ADHD thing, because I think it's kind of a superpower, actually. If you get pretty good at this process, and you learn how to operate your body in an emotional state, you can operate your body as though you were in that emotional state, kind of experience that emotional state on demand, and imbue any element of art with that emotion. It makes you a very powerful artist. It makes you powerful in person, in communication, because if someone else is angry, you know how to operate that. And if you know better how to act in angry moments than your opponent knows how to act in angry moments, you can outperform them in the contest of rage. Don't hurt anybody. Don't hurt anybody. That's like dangerous extreme language, but also, like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just doing my best. And I'm making all of this up. This is me. This is only me. I'm nuts. I made this. But doing things in an emotional state helps you know what things to do in an emotional state and how to operate within that emotional state. It gets out your emotion state so then you can focus on real world things. However, by doing art or whatever while you're feeling an emotion, that lets you know more about handling the emotion and even comes to help you be able to do essays even though you're really sad. You don't have to focus. You don't need a lot of caffeine to induce focus, because that focus helps you dial in on whatever present moment is happening. You can't scope out and feel the emotional picture, and we are emotionally driven people. That's how I feel like the static of ADHD comes from. I feel like I shoehorned back in the ADHD thing, but that's how the video started, and then I totally lost myself in it somewhere. But to wrap it up as best as I can, because I totally have to go. This is way too long of a video. But I contend the static that we feel is emotions that we need to process. Processing those emotions through the ways I described helps me then be able to focus, because all of it's like my brain has the zoomies. And so you got to get the zoomies out. But caffeine doesn't help with the zoomies because I think the zoomies are emotion based, and you can't focus on an emotion. If caffeine is a stand in for the desire for focus, it's the desire not to feel emotion, which is going to keep you permanently zoomy in the head. I made that up. That's my conjecture. And I wanted to share those thoughts because I've been experimenting with consuming less caffeine and allowing myself to be yet additionally emotionally accessible, which has yielded results. And I wanted to share the ongoing experiment, my hypothesis, with people because I think it's valid, and I wondered if maybe others could get something out of my logic as well. But I like totally have to go. There's breakfast inside. I need to eat that, and then I got to edit this and edit something else, and then I just have a lot to do. I got a lot to do today, so I'm gonna go. But this is what this was, and what a delight! What a delight it was. Because I had fun. I had I had a blast. I had a blast. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna walk out of frame. Because that's how you have to end a video like this. And so that's what we're doing. I hope that you are just having such a good day. Maybe a strange one. But you know what? Heck yeah. Okay. Bye, guys.